Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants. And here we are today at Judys' homegrown orchard, where she's got a food forest, an urban food forest with over 180 fruit trees and herbs and vegetables grown on her property. And she's also an expert helping a lot of people throughout the Los Angeles area. And I'm just looking here at her website, again, here at Judys' Homegrown. I'll put that website link down below. She'll basically help you out with tree pruning, rose trimming, maintenance, tree grafting, garden design, spraying, pest management, organic care, diagnosis, fruit tree care, and so much more. We spent the last hour and a half before we even started recording just touring and challenging one another on all these different gardening concepts. She's truly a master in gardening. And what a pleasure to be with you with all of these sharp tools in front of you this morning. Here we are again, it's late September, and behind me we have a Hass avocado tree that's exhibiting a lot of stress, and I heard about this about a month ago and I had to come out and visit it, and we're gonna get to discuss that together. But do you have any words you'd like to share before we get started?
Yeah, so avocado trees don't like temps above 100, and in the case of this past spring and summer, we had some temperatures that were like that, and once they creep over 100, then the tree will show where it's not getting enough water from the roots, and it fries, but it's not necessarily from the sun, because I was at a client's the other day. He has all these trees that are facing the south, and yet it was the north side of his tree that was affected, which is leading me to believe that it's because he was watering the tree right, the bubbler was right at the trunk, and yet the tree is on a hillside, so the water's running down, the tree is trying to grow roots under the tree, which would also be on the uphill side, and it couldn't because it wasn't watered up there. So when we have damage like this, it's usually because twofold: the tree can't handle those temps, and it's sacrificing certain areas of the tree. And we'll walk around this tree later, but I want to show you how just certain pockets of it are burnt to a crisp, and others are doing really well. So it's...
Let me just reiterate real quickly what you just said. So the friend's property you visited, where he had the avocados in containers, you said it was
they were planted on a hill, but not in containers.
But the north side of the plant exhibited the burn, and
right,
not the south side. And for those of you watching, it's the south side that is expected to burn. It's the south side of the plant. If you're living in the northern hemisphere, I know there's some viewers in Australia, for example, that are watching this. And for your plants, it's typically the north side of the plant. If you're in the southern hemisphere, that would be exposed to the hot afternoon, sunniest, hottest temperatures. But here in the northern hemisphere, being the United States, and again, here we are in Ranchos Palos Verdes, which is very close to Long Beach. And just to let you know, we're about a mile, I think, up on a mountain right now.
Right.
And the ocean is
south,
just right over there. I can see it. It's maybe about a mile away as well. So just to give you a perspective of where we are, you would expect the temperatures to be quite cool and temperate, with temperatures that don't approach 100, and with nights that definitely don't approach freezing ever, I would assume, as well, being this close to the ocean. But again, we're seeing trees that are stressing, such as this Hass avocado behind me. The other thing that Judy just shared as well is with the watering and in a container and on a hillside, that putting the bubbler at the stem or at the tree trunk is probably not the best place, being that the water all went to just basically went down the hill and basically left the uphill side of the tree container dry, and that resulted in, basically, you're saying also some of the damage that happened on the north side of the plant. So it could have been also a poor watering practice and not necessarily a temperature issue.
Yeah, in fact, to speak about water, because it's so essential, the top 7 inches of soil is where 70% of these avocados' feeder roots are. So you need to really cast a wide net when you sprinkle, spray, or bubble the area, and that's why I don't like one bubbler going right down in one spot. An older tree, maybe after it's established that's okay. You know how you plant a tree, sometimes it does great no matter how you water it.
Yep.
And it just likes that spot. But obviously the water then is wicking well. In places where, like this compost I put on here didn't wick well, and I had to really spray the whole area till it finally soaked up. All the water that I was applying had to be completely covering that root zone. They call it the drip line.
Yep.
So anywhere where there's the leaf would drip is the drip line. That's the outer perimeter of the tree. You need to cover that entire drip line with water.
That's
and
great.
that would help with the damage as well. If we watered better, we would have better results.
So one of the things I want to reiterate is, one, you said that in the top 7 inches, I'll find 70% of the feeder roots. And the logical thing for most people, when they see a tree that I'm 6 feet tall, this tree behind me is probably about 8 to 9 feet tall, one would guess that the roots are going 7 to 9 feet deep. If it's growing 9 feet tall, wouldn't the roots go 9 feet down to basically stabilize and basically care for, you know, for the health and the longevity of the plant? And the answer is no.
Well,
right?
there's a tap root, so there is one long root that's going down. This is unique to avocado trees, and there are some other trees. They actually grow the roots up. If you place compost like 2 or 3 inches deep, you're actually giving it more root zone area capability. So unlike other trees that all the roots go down, avocado tree roots can actually grow up into your amendment, your compost.
That's interesting. And part of the compost is also adding like your wood chips around the plant, right?
Right.
So it's basically mulching around the plant.
And you remember how I said those avocados were planted on the hillside? Well, it's counterintuitive, but the tree will grow roots actually above the place where it's planted.
Above the grade.
Above grade. If it's on a hillside, it'll grow up into the hillside.
So Judy shared with me, and I'm going to have her basically demonstrate, and we'll basically go with the camera all around the tree so you can see all sides of it. But she said she planted her avocado a full foot above grade, and if you take a look at it now, it looks quite natural. My thought was there's only 2 to 3 inches, but when you plant a tree, it naturally settles over time, and it's good practice, especially with avocados, more important than a lot of other fruit trees, to basically put it above grade so it avoids the risk of, I'll have you say, what's the risk of planting your plants too deep? What's going to happen to it?
So the problem with planting too deep is often they just die. I mean, it's one of the 3 most common reasons why an newly planted avocado tree doesn't survive. 1 is not enough water. 2 is planting too deep, so basically the feeder roots don't ever get a chance to get into the good friable, like fluffy soil because it's too deep, or it's rotting because the water is all pooling into one area, and that tree is too young to spread. It's not spreading the roots wide yet, so then it's more likely to rot if it's too low. The other cause is not getting enough sun protection, and that's where IV Organics comes in, or shading with a shade cloth. And when you think about it in nature, the mother tree protects the young trees in the first part of its life with basically shading.
Yeah.
And that's why all the young trees now still need shade. They're expecting that mother to protect them.
That is a great practice. I'm going to quickly reiterate the first point that Judy just shared with us is planting a plant too deep will basically trap too much moisture around the roots and create a phenomenon known as root rot. And the second one being it's a good practice to immediately whitewash your plants when you get it from the nursery, being that in a nursery the plants are in a group. They're basically protected by the other seedling plants that are in their containers, but when you bring it home, it's now standing in the home garden all by itself and exposed to too much sun. It sounds like can't happen, but you're going to see shortly what too much sun can do. It'll burn a plant. And this is now more of an established plant, but it's actually looking, aside from some of the damage in here, the canopy is getting a lot more full than when I was last at your garden just a few months ago. But it's that canopy that's basically protecting the underlying tree trunk and branches. But a young plant or tree that you get from the nursery has an entire tree trunk and lower branches that are exposed to too much sun. And imagine your body at the beach come springtime, 13 hours of daylight, summertime, 14 hours of daylight with no protection. The protection being a canopy to protect those underlying tree trunks and branches.
So I have clients ask me, why did all my leaves drop on my avocado tree? Is that anything to be worried about? And I say, no, that's normal, natural progress. Sometimes the tree just needs to drop all its leaves to bring in all this new growth. But it happened to me, all the leaves dropped on this tree, and I furiously ran out here and started painting it, because now, without any leaves, there was no protection on the branches. So it's really important to have that whitewash handy for times when your tree is, and I'm talking avocados, because deciduous trees, it's okay, that's normal, natural, they can handle some of the sun, but even with avocados, it's especially important to keep the moisture in the tree.
So deciduous trees, correct me if I'm wrong, they typically drop their leaves in the winter. So
Right.
by mid-early fall, the leaf color starts changing. Let's say here in Southern California, most of the deciduous trees will drop leaves between November and December. By January, they should be leafless, right? No
Right.
leaves. An avocado, on the other hand, being an evergreen, not a deciduous type of plant or tree, an avocado will be green year-round. There was some avocados we viewed on Judys' property that she said from the time it blooms, it'll take 2 years to enjoy the fruit. A Haas, on the other hand, it'll bloom in the spring and you'll enjoy fruit pretty much by the end of the year, right?
Yeah, from January, conceivably from January through September, but you can, if you wait until March, the fat content will be higher.
Wonderful. So, so again, depending on the variety of avocado, you can expect fruit within a year to 2 years. In regards to the leaf fall, I've noticed in my personal experience, it's typically later spring and even early summer that I'll notice the biggest leaf drop on my avocados, which seems to be also maybe the most important time that the plant's going to need a canopy to protect the underlying tree trunks and branches again, and to prevent burn, which again we're going to see momentarily within the plant.
So there's burn, and then there's what happened to this tree, which is, I think, better described as desiccating, which is it just dried out. It's desiccant.
Let's take a tour. We're
Desiccating.
pointing all over the plant. Let's actually walk around the plant. I'm going to have you actually give the tour of what's happening. I'm going to follow you.
Okay. So you can see it, placement of this tree is it's under a huge Cape chestnut that's planted by the city. So I thought originally that the plant was, or the avocado tree was growing this direction to get out from under the shade of that tree. And that may still be the case. But there's also a sprinkler head on this side of the tree, and so maybe it's growing this way because it knows that the water, there's more water supply on this side. But as we walk around, you'll see that the back side of the tree has got most of the damage. And I cut this tree at 5 feet tall at one point so that it would spread. And Hass are a spreading tree, whereas like reed will go, it's a columnar, it'll go straight up. So you don't want to cut a reed like this one, but if you can see, this is the original cut, and that's I'm about 5'6", and so this was just above where my head is. So when I planted this tree, I actually made a berm, a large area that was raised up with compost, and I basically planted it about maybe a foot above grade this way, but I was trying to get it 2 feet above grade. It's just that it all shrank down. And then every year, every 6 months to a year, I put in a whole nother berm of compost around it, as big as the drip line. It's huge. And I don't touch the bark. I make sure that it's away from the bark, but it's like monster. I mean, I'm really packing it on. You should see it. It's a huge hill by the time I'm done. And it shrinks down so quickly. Like within a year, you can't even tell that this was like this tall when I started. The reason I think this side got fried more so than the other side is because this side's not getting as much water, and or if it's going up the phloem, maybe this side, the side's not getting as much water, is is corresponding with certain roots down in the bottom, and that side of the tree got affected. But as you can see, there's branches all over this tree that got affected. So it's got to be some kind of like systemic. The tree chooses which part of the tree is going to be sacrificed for the part that's getting the most water. And you know, it's anybody's guess how that's distributed. It's up to the tree.
So Judy just explained that she attributes the damage to the north side of her plant, which we're standing now on the north side, being more damaged than the south side for the same example that we talked about earlier. So when that grower basically had his about 8 avocado trees, you said, on a hillside, watering directly at the tree trunk, and being on a hillside, the water is naturally going to run down the hillside and basically better water the down the hillside side of the plant. Being in this example, it was the north side of the plant. No, I take that back. The south side of the plant was performing better, being that it was better irrigated. But in this example over here, we're standing now on the north side of the plant, and Judy is explaining that when it came to watering, she feels like her watering practice was better on the south side, hence the plant looks better on the south side than on the north side, being that it's lacking water. And the way that happens is, I've got my legs here I'm trying to show with you in the video. If the water is coming predominantly from my right side, then as the water comes out my leg, it's going to get water to my right arm and branches, is the analogy, better than if my left leg were in dry soil. Then the water that's coming up this side of the plant is going to exhibit some stresses on my left side. So that's why it's so important to make sure that when you water your plant, you'll water the entire root zone. And as Judy mentioned earlier, she said it's very important that you water the entire drip line. And as she defined it, being as far as the branches reach out, those roots are right underneath those branches, and you basically want to make sure you water all of those feeder roots, which again are about 70% of the root mass of the plant, is right down the top 7 inches, less than my foot, is just right under the ground is where all that life is. So you simply got to water and soak that entire root zone for the plant. Anything else you want to add on this point before we get to pruning?
Well, as we were talking about the upside watering, is if you happen to be on a hillside, you want to make sure that you're watering from high enough up that those roots can actually grow up into the hillside.
That's awesome. So for all of you growers, or regardless of what the plant is, it could be roses to fruit trees, when you're on a hillside, make sure you water up the hill, as the water is naturally going to work its way down the hills, rather than putting your drip system right at where the spot is, where that plant is planted. So that was a very helpful lesson. Thank you, Judy, for that. The next thing we're going to do is begin to prune the avocado. And again, we're here at the last week of September now. But another important lesson is when is the right time of year for pruning. And different plants, you know, will obviously benefit by pruning it at the right time. But when it comes to deadwood, in my opinion, and you can add to this, the best time to prune deadwood is whenever it's dead. If it's dead, you got to remove it. Otherwise, it's a beautiful entryway for disease, pests, and basically like beetles and termites to basically enter that dead wood and work its way into the living part of the wood. So I basically prune as soon as I see dead wood, so that it would encourage growth into the other parts of the plant, which we're going to zoom in and I'll share with you. That even though it looks pretty dead behind me, there's a lot of life that's there, and we're going to try to encourage that to grow to its maximum. Is there anything else you want to add on that?
No, I agree with that.
Wonderful. So let's get to pruning. I'm going to zoom in on Judy and let's see her clean up this little bit of a mess that happened during our heat wave that was about 2 months ago here in Los Angeles.
So can I add one more thing about when to prune?
Of course.
So all different fruit trees get pruned at different times. The stone fruits get pruned in the late summer and then in the winter for different reasons. Citrus you prune in January. Avocados you prune when, well, I always prune a tree when I first plant it if it's the type of tree that I want to contain low. For example, the stone fruits, I'll prune it about 3 30 to 36 inches, and that's to get the base shape going. So pruning is a whole conversation we could have about when to do what.
I agree.
Okay.
That's important. Well, let's get started. We're going to
Okay.
start pruning, and again, the goal is we're going to remove all the dead wood out of the plant, and then we're going to do a couple more steps to follow. So let's get started. Yeah.
So we're going to cut until we find the wood that's green. I mean, we can kind of see and assume that this is all black, but we want to look at where we cut to make sure it's dead, and this definitely is. So it's brown. And then we'll keep cutting back to verify. See, that's already dead. So, and then I cut to a bud. That's actually a bud. It's still dry. And then I'm gonna get my loppers. I'm still looking for some kind of, I know that every bump on this branch is a bud. And it's starting to get definitely more creamy looking color, but it's still not green. You would know because the skin has some green. Then you know you're into green tissue. So I am going to cut this all the way back to this branch. And then you start seeing a little bit of green. You see that on the skin? And up here, it's the same thing. I want to see, I mean, obviously we have dead branches here, here, and here. So we know that this is dead up to this branch. Where that one, the one I was just working on, there weren't any branches. You have to be careful. So you want to go far enough back. I know this is dead all the way up to here. It's experience, but anyway, because everything along it is dead. But if you see, there's green where I cut it, so that means there's going to be some latent buds right under this branch that'll do okay. And we can see that that's happening already with these branches that are coming out. They're going to take over for this canopy that is missing. So I could cut a little lower on this one, but that's still pretty dead. So I'm going to come back. And now I have I can feel the difference when I cut it. There's some green there. This one I'm cutting to the dead branch. Then I'm going to come back a little bit more. It's still crispy. This one's going to have to be all the way to the base. So it's not just what it looks like, it's also, you can tell by what it feels like when you cut it, whether there's any life in it. If it's crispy, it's definitely not going to have any life in it anymore. So whenever you prune and it's a heading cut, you're going to cut to a bud or a live branch. In this case, we'll cut to this. And you have to cut within 1/8 to 1/4 inch of that branch or the bud that you're cutting to. The reason is that there's actual scarring tissue in there that can heal over the branch. If you cut too far away, even more than 1/4 inch away, then you're going to get what I call a hat rack, because I'm a rose pruner, and that hat rack is actually a vector for disease, and it won't heal over, and you'll have this dead piece all the way to the point where the scarring tissue will heal. But the problem with having that extra dead tissue on there is it's actually asking pests to come to it. So 1/8 to 1/4 inch, that's really important. So there is going to be a branch that takes over for this. So it looks sad, but any one of these branches now has the capability of becoming the leader of the tree, almost, because that one's taller, but any one of these branches can start becoming as big as this original trunk. So that's where I want to encourage you to not lose hope. I'm just going to start cleaning up this tree because it's frustrating me to not prune quicker. We're not going to have to paint at every cut unless you want to. And by the way, you don't have to have sun damage to have dead branches on a tree. It could just be, you know, normal progress of things, of it not getting enough water one season, any kind of stress.
Can you explain why there's only one fruit on this tree? When I was here 3 months ago, I saw like over 100 pieces.
So the tree sacrificed all of its fruit and said, I better just put all my energy into creating a new leaf canopy because I'm obviously not taking care of business on protecting myself. So it dropped all the 150 fruit I lost.
Wow.
It was just heartbreaking. So, but that's...
So a tree will drop its fruit as it doesn't need fruit for survival, but it does need a shaded canopy in order to prevent its underlying structure from continuous burn throughout the rest of summer.
Yeah, I mean, besides, the tree needs photosynthesis, which is all leaf directed, for it to put energy and develop the fruit. So yeah, if it didn't have a good canopy, it wouldn't be making good fruit anyway.
Wonderful.
So look at all this dead wood we took off the tree, and now look at how beautiful this tree is after we've taken it off. And we're gonna go back and we're gonna cap the big cuts, the cuts that are truly exposed with this. So this tree will do so much better when it's protected.
Okay, so here we are now. We've just pruned the entire tree. We removed all of the dead wood, which now again the goal is to seal all of those exposed areas. Additionally, there's still parts of the canopy that are exposed to too much light. And then we're also going to paint the underlying tree trunks and branches that are still exposed to too much light. And until that canopy fills up and naturally shades the underlying tree trunk and branches, then we'll then do that. What we're going to do is we're simply going to take this product over here. I just want to bring it in close to you. That is the Ivy Organics product, protection against damaging sunburn insects and rodents. Simply add water to it. It comes with the 7 natural garden oils, which include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. And those basically with the base powder that will encapsulate these oils and protect the added protection, especially on those exposed surfaces, against insects from penetrating and getting within the plant. And then for the rodent protection, if there's any risk of girdling rodents in the area, it'll also add that further protection. So let's get started with painting.
The nice thing about this product is it's non-toxic. Everything about it is healthy and good for the plant. I feel like we're just taking care of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I bet you if we put it on the parts that are suffering from some kind of bacterial infection or something, that it would get rid of it. Yeah, I think if you put this on any of the darker, blacker branches, that you know that that's the area that needs it the most, because they've already been stressed, and yet they're still carrying fruit. They're going to.
Yeah.
So I like to hit the south side first and then work on to the west side. But yeah, if you can get all the way around, that's the best. And also on the cuts, because...
Do you want to get a little bit more product up in here?
Okay. I can't see up
You
there.
see that it's still exposed wood.
Yeah, because we want...
That's a lot better.
Okay, because we want to protect it against this the heat wave. We always get a heat wave like September, October. That just is so hot. And like you'll stay indoors for the whole week. And you don't want to be painting your tree when it's hot. You want to do it before it gets like that.
That's right.
Now that you've pruned it and you've protected it, it's not going to hopefully grow better. Whatever you fertilize the plant with now this fall, because you can still feed it as we still got a couple more months of warmer weathers, that the plant will uptake these nutrients and give a good maximum bloom with hopefully maximum fruit, you know, being supported. And hopefully next year will be your best fruiting year.
Who are
So basically all of the exposed surfaces, all the parts and all the branches that are in the light are the branches that are exposed to the most amount of sun and therefore possible sun damage. And I can see here you're basically protecting all of those surfaces that were turning from brown to black. And black not just because that's the normal bark color, but because it's burned. And we're basically protecting it now with the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard. There's also the Ivory Organics whitewash formula, which is oil-free, also still organic. But if you don't have the insect and the rodent issues, you can do the oil-free version as well. But today we're using the yellow label instead of the blue whitewash label. We're using the yellow 3-in-1 label to basically protect the plant from all three elements, especially because we've got those pruned branches, and we're going to want to make sure that no disease enters those exposed areas. If anybody wants to get a hold of Judys Homegrown, how can they get a hold of you? Or how can we get in touch with you to learn more about you? And
the best way is judyfrankel@gmail.com.
so she's sharing her email address with us. So it's Judy Frankel, and I'll put that email address right below here, judyfrankel@gmail.com. I'm also going to put her website as well, which is judyshomegrown.com. You'll see that there as well. And is there anything else you want to share with the viewers?
If you need help planting an avocado tree, I help with planting.
That's awesome. So she helps plant, prune, feed,
Fertilize,
train. You name train. I saw some espalier trees. Did I say it right?
Yeah, espalier.
Espalier. She's basically got these plants that are pressed against a fence, and she's basically growing them completely vertical instead of its normal round shape that a tree would normally assume. If you've enjoyed this educational video by Ivory Organics, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Most importantly, by subscribing below, you'll be connected to this and all of our other educational gardening videos. And most importantly, don't forget to hit that push bell notification to be notified as soon as a new video is released. From Ivory Organics, we're wishing you the best growing season ever, and thank you all for watching. Happy gardening.